I'm Neil from Board Game Happy, and thank you very much for joining me today for a very quick review of Point City from Flat Out Games. This is a follow-up to Point Salad that I backed on Kickstarter alongside Fit to Print and Deep Dive. I do really enjoy Fit to Print. Deep Dive I have some slight reservations on, but the one that I keep on bringing back to the table, the one game that I want to play, the game I want to introduce loads and loads of people to is Point City. So let me take you down to the table, show you really briefly a couple of quick turns, give you an idea as to how the game plays. And then I'll bring you back up and I'll let you know why I think this is the game that you need in your collection. Anyway, cheers!
Okay, so this is Point City set up for a two-player game. The game comes with a really handy setup page which tells you how many cards of each you need to remove and how many civic tokens you need out. So basically once you've constructed your deck, it's placed over there and then a 4x4 grid is laid out. Have these rather handy tokens and I'll show you what these are for in a minute. Apart from that, you're going to shuffle these wild cards. So obviously we're only having two players, so what we'll do is get rid of those two. We must keep this one in here. We'll shuffle them, hand them out, and then whoever's got this one is the start player. So, what do you do on your turn? On your turn, you may take the top two cards from the deck. That's one option. Second option is to take two cards that are orthogonally next to each other. So I could take these two, for example, or these two. Finally, there is an option you can carry out before you take any cards, which is if there are 4 resources in a column or a row, you may turn one of those resources to the building side. So in this example, I will turn this one here. Okay, so that's basically everything you can do on your turn. So what are you trying to do? You're trying to get the most points, and you are trying to get the most points by building up your engine, scoring points for some of the buildings. Some of the buildings, let me try and, okay, that's a great example. First two I'll look at. Let me find some cards which have points on it. So there you go. So this card has 2 points on it, so that would be worth 2 points. You will also gain points from the civic tiles. So for example, this civic tile, if you manage to get it, will give you 2 points per permanent resource of that type. So let me show you a couple of example goes. Now you can only take a building if you're able to build it on that go. So you cannot, and the first player would not be able to take that one at the moment. So what they could do is in preparation for building that, they could take these 2 cards here. Now when you take resources, you can always take resources. You then put them down in front of you. I like to stack them up, to keeps it handy. Now, the reason why we've got these tokens, as I mentioned before, is they are recommended that you place them there once you've taken what it is so that people know what to put there in the future. I find as long as the next player along is keeping an eye on the board, then they can do the refilling as you're having your go. So effectively, that would be the first go. Now, when you take resources from the grid, they are replaced by the top of the deck, but you flip these over to put the building side down. So that would be the first player's turn. The second player would then have a go. Now the second player is going to once again take advantage of flipping one of these cards, and they're going to flip this one. Now what this player can do, you'll notice that's worth 4 points, and it requires this cog resource and a leaf resource. Now it's next to the leaf, but you're thinking, well, it's not next to a cog, but that's okay because the player still has their original wild card. So they're going to take these 2. And they will then play this card immediately in front of them. Now, it's not worth another resource up here in the top corner, like, for example, these ones are, but it's worth a straight up 4 points. These 2 cards are discarded, and then you replace them. Now, there was a building here, so we put a resource, and there was a resource here, so we put a building. And it goes back to the other player's turn. So this player was going to take that one, but now what they've seen is they've seen this one here, and they think, well, that's pretty good because that's giving me a cog resource. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2. We'll quickly do the job of the other player there. And then to pay this cost, I've got to pay 2 leaves. So I'm going to pay the first leaf I have there and another leaf. Now this card is worth 1 point, and look at it, it's an ice cream truck. And it's also got a cog on it. So that would then be a permanent resource that I can then use on future goes to pay for other cards that I'm building. So that's what you're doing. You're building up an engine And as you go further and further into the deck, you'll notice you start on the level 1 cards, which have got the light colour and the 1 in the corner. And then you get to the level 2 cards, which have the 2 and they're slightly darker. And then you get to the powerful level 3 cards, which look pretty cool. So you're going to keep on playing, building your engine between the two of you until the deck runs out. Everyone would have had an equal number of turns. People will then add up their tableau, which will be the points on their cards. It will be the points for their civic tokens. By the way, once these civic tokens go, they are gone. So be quick. If, for example, you want to grab this one, which this is one of my favourites, I absolutely love it. 6 points for each group. So you need to have all 5 in the permanent resources. But I've managed to do that with 3 of each before, and that's 18 points. So that is great. So yeah, once that happens, the game is over, and then you do final scoring, and the person with the most points wins. Just briefly mention the Kickstarter version just had 4 extra civic token tiles in it. They're fine. I would say they're okay. If you can only get the retail version, I really wouldn't worry about it. The retail version is absolutely fine. The Kickstarter version is just a nice little extra, but it's by no means essential. Anyway, let me take you back up top.
Okay, so I hope that gameplay overview gave you a really quick idea as to how the game plays. And I hope it showed you some of the things that I think you can see that I'm going to talk about right now that I really enjoy. So let me go through some of the things that I really, really like about this game. I mentioned a couple of things that I'm not super hot about, but overall, for me, this game is top notch. So what I really like about this game is the speed of the engine building. Within a few turns, you can have built a lovely little engine, and before you know it, you are playing 2 buildings at a time. It's so exciting when that happens. If you have 2 or 3 goes of playing 2 buildings at a time, because you can take both, because you've already got all the necessary resources, it's so exciting. The scoring is fantastic as well. I love the civic tiles. I absolutely love the civic tiles. I love working towards the really big scoring civic tiles. That is a super exciting part of the game. I love the variety in each game, because quite a few cards are taken out. It's really quite a large amount of cards that come in the game. So many are taken out, especially in a 2-player game, that you never really see the same 2 cards, or they never appear in the same position. So it's always very exciting about how you manipulate your engine and how you build it. So that's something I really, really enjoy about the game. I really like the graphic design. I mean, the cards themselves, they're functional. The buildings are cute and all that. The theme is not there. There's no theming to the game, but it's a very pleasing looking game. It looks great on the table, so I really enjoy that. The card quality is a little bit thin. It's okay. I have noticed a couple of cards getting bent quite quickly, so that's a little bit frustrating. But once again, I can live with that. I really like all of the player counts. The solo is okay. I mean, this is not a game that you're going to play solo over and over and over again. I've played it a couple of times. It's fine. But for me, this is a perfect 2-player game, because on a 2-player game, you have a little bit of control over what's being left in the tableau, what's not being left, in the grid. And in a 3 or 4-player game, the grid changes so vastly. So for me, the 2-player game is where this shines at the most. Like I've said in the overview, the Kickstarter bits are, you get 4 little civic tiles, which are really great. They're nice to have, but don't rush out trying to get the Kickstarter edition at an extra cost if you really want them. It's not essential. The game as it is without the Kickstarter civic tiles is absolutely perfect. So yeah, I really, really, really like Point City. I've really enjoyed teaching it to everyone. Everyone I've taught it to so far has really enjoyed it. So fingers crossed that hit rate will continue. But yeah, so that's my really quick review of Point City. I hope it helps you make a decision about whether or not you want to buy it or not. Hopefully you do. But I appreciate you watching my video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. And if you've got any comments, chuck them below. I will always come back to you. But thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Cheers!